Hey guys, it's SD, your host of the Life Picks Relationship podcast, where people with all sorts of backgrounds, challenges, and life experience show us how they make their relationship extraordinary.
Hey guys, hope you're having an awesome day and still on a high. From the previous episode with Duo Transcend. That was such a good one. Actually, I'm just realizing that I have no clue when you're listening to this. If you're listening to this at 5 a.m. just when this drops, then I don't know how much of a day you had by 5 a.m. and how much of it could have been awesome. I mean, I hope until then it was, but most of your day is gonna be after that. So I probably should be saying have an awesome day for the rest of it. But if you're listening to this at night or in the middle of the day, then it should be awesome for whatever it is. Awesome for everything. Just go and crush whatever you're doing. I'm super excited for today's episode. And I think you will be too as soon as you go and meet today's guest. She's a former police officer and turned into a communication specialist, training and speaking people about honesty and human behavior from a completely different perspective. You can go, or should go, I should say, and connect with her at ellyjohnson.com. Thank you so much, Elly, for being here. I'm super excited. And my very first question to you is, what made you decide to become a police officer?
Great question. I was actually working in a bar and I'd recently traveled overseas for about 9 months, and I wasn't sure what my path was going to be, as so many people back. I was 20 at that stage when I first had this aha moment. I might join the police force. Two of the guys that were working on the door at this particular bar were police officers, and one was a state police officer, and one were in Victoria in Australia, and one was a federal police officer. And they were arguing with each other as to which police force I should join, state versus federal. And I don't know. I just thought of the idea. It just came to me. So I applied for both of them. And I thought whichever one comes back first with the next steps is the one that I'll go with. And it turned out it was the state police, the Victorian police. So I applied. It took a while to do that. And then I ended up getting into the academy, and I graduated on my 22nd birthday, which was kind of neat. And then on the Monday, they threw us out to the streets of Melbourne and said, here's your gun, here's your handcuffs, here's your baton, and go and do what police do. So it was pretty scary at the time and pretty overwhelming. Although at the time, I think I thought I knew everything. At 22, you go, I know all this, but it didn't take long for me to realize that there was a whole lot more to learn,
And how long did you do that for?
I actually was in for about 5 years. At the 5-year mark, I had the crossroads of, okay, do I do another 5 years? Do I do another 10 years? Do I know, like, what am I going to do with this? And I had all these other opportunities that were bubbling around. And I think I just felt that I was so glad that I did that. It was the best decision to actually get into the police force. But there was something else calling me. There was something else pulling me. There was something else saying, no, this isn't it. There's something bigger out there for you. And it was so strong, but I didn't know what it was. But I followed that gut feeling, and I left and I traveled for a while. I worked in sales for a while. And then about almost 20 years ago, I started my own business, which is what I'm still doing today.
So cool. Now, what was the biggest lesson you learned while being a cop?
Biggest lesson. Okay. Well, in relation to truth and lies, which is the core of my world, I look at life through the lens of a model that I created called the 5 truth circles. But back then at the tender age of 22, in that very first week that I mentioned that they threw us out to the streets of Melbourne, we got called the first few days we learned how to direct traffic, which was, how to actually turn your hand the right way to stop the cars and how to bring the other cars on. Like, this is a whole course, man. And but then it was like day 3 or something. We got called to our first real job, which was at the back of a department store. The security department had called, the security loss preventions had called police because there was a suspected shoplifter. So my partner and I, we just thought we knew how to direct traffic and we knew how to put people in jail. mind you, we hadn't done it before. So we were so determined to write this brief of evidence and get this person in front of a magistrate and whatever. And he denied stealing the jacket, and they didn't have a lot of evidence. And so we were relying on an admission from him to be able to do anything with it. Of course, he said, no, I didn't steal it. I said, please tell me the truth. And he said, I didn't steal it. I said, tell me the truth. I'm like, hang on, I don't really know how to get the truth from somebody, because I was sure he was lying. And it was my aha moment there, like, okay, how do you get the truth from somebody when the truth is against their own self-interest? Why would somebody tell you something that's going to cause them harm in some way? And so that was the question that started going through my head, and I realized I needed more skills in interviewing, in question formulation, and also in influencing someone to be more truthful and spotting signs of harmful deception, because they hadn't really taught us that much about it in the academy. They touched on it and said it was important, but not a lot of skills and knowledge was plugged into our head around that. So I think that's where my mission started, on that path. And then I made it my business to learn as much as I could about human behaviour in context of truth and lies and interviewing skills. And I sat in with a lot of interviews, watched a lot of good and bad interviewers, and kind of continued on that journey up until today.
And what made you decide to go and get into the business of it?
Yeah, great question. So as I said, I left the police force, travelled for a while, joined the corporate world, worked in sales management, recruiting teams and selling I was working in the toy industry for a while because that was my family background. And then I had another job heading up the national retail division of a HR company. And I think it was that pulling voice that I said, that little voice that said, there's more for you, because I hadn't quite found my path. And I remember feeling really, even though I was getting paid well and the job was good and I'd built this great team around me, I thought, it's not it. It's just not it. And so one day I resigned. And at that stage, I was a single mum of 2 little girls. And people were saying, what are you doing? Like, you can't just do that. You've got responsibilities. You've got a mortgage. You've got this, you've got that. I said, I don't know. There's something there for me. And I have to shut that door before the other doors will open. And I'm a big believer on that. And then within a couple of weeks, I crossed paths with my now ex-business partner, but he was also from the police force. He'd left years before. And he is Australia's leading polygraph operator. So polygraph lie detectors. And he'd just come back from the States and had done some training over there. He was already acting as a polygraph operator in Australia, which wasn't a high demand role. We weren't using them much. We don't use them much. And he said, what are you doing these days? And I said, I'm going to start my own business, something communication, something not quite sure what it is, helping people, I know that. And he said, look, I've got some great content that I've just brought back from the States around interviewing skills with a focus on detecting deception. I went, that's it. So we formed a business together and created some programs that were our own and grew from there. And we were together for 6 years in the business, and then I took over the business and took it in some different directions after that.
You literally got led to it.
Yeah, and I think everyone does. Well, that's just my map of the world. I think that you can't, if you allow it, you've got to open yourself to what that thing is, and then you've got to listen to it. So open yourself, listen to it, and then you've got to act on it. So, that voice, that pull, that purpose, that mission in life, I think we all have it, but a lot of people suppress it or aren't curious enough.
Unfortunately. You mentioned earlier about the 5 truths. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so they're not really 5 truths. They're 5 lenses that I look through when I think about just about any situation I hear, people having arguments or people debating about something or people thinking about something or making choices. It fits in one of my 5 truth circles. Actually, I'll show you. It's not going to be there's the 5 truth circles all spread out there.
You want to bring one really closer?
Yeah. Okay,
so for people watching, and then describe it for people listening.
Okay, so that one there, okay, so it just says, that has the 5 truth circles there. Self, speak, seek, stop, and spot.
Okay, so just Yeah, say that again a little bit louder and clearer for the people who are
Yeah.
listening, so that way they
Okay,
can.
so self-truth is all about exploring truth from the perspective of self. Like, what are the stories I'm telling myself? What are the limiting beliefs that are holding me back? Like, it goes a lot deeper than this, but it's all about self, because people are really quick to say that somebody should tell them the truth, or your truth is wrong and this is right, and all that stuff that causes relationships and society to be clashing. But I think the first place to start is self-truth. Like, what do I know about myself? Why do I think like I do? Like, we're born as a clean slate. We're all born the same. We ain't got nothing there. I mean, we might have some past life stuff if you believe that, but we're a clean slate. Now, everything that we think today has been layered on us by family, by media, by experiences, by whatever. It's just layers and layers and layers and layers. It doesn't make it right or wrong, doesn't make your truth better than my truth. But to really get in touch with that, why do I think like I do? Why does that button get pushed and I go through the roof? Really get in touch with self-truth comes before anything on a personal growth mission. That's if
So
you
how
want.
could a person get to that?
Well, the first thing is you need to decide that you want to grow. And you and I both know that for some people that just actually doesn't occur to them, or they don't think they need it, or I know everything there is to know, or I don't need to read books because they're nonsense. There are people that have that approach. I'm the opposite to that, where I'm hungry for knowledge, I'm hungry for growth. The people that I work with, the people that I coach, I say, you won't get the success that you talk about and the dreams that you've got unless you are hungry for growth. It won't happen. You won't get more success with the same level of knowledge that got you to where you are today. Exactly. Otherwise, you'd already be there. So that self-truth is getting in touch with all of those things and going deep on self first. And how did I get here? What do I think? Why do I think it? The relationships that have worked for me or not worked for me, why is that? What part do I play in that? It's really easy in relationships, and you'd know that through your podcast and speaking to all the people you speak to about relationships, that people are very quick to blame somebody else when things go wrong. He doesn't do this, she doesn't do that. It's her fault, it's his fault. So self-truth, no matter whether you're looking to earn more money or to lose weight or to have a better relationship or get a better job, or whatever the case is, it has to, in my view, start with those sorts of questions and those sorts of discussions. And it can get a little bit prickly. It can get a little bit
uncomfortable.
That's a great word, uncomfortable, or confronting is another one. Confronting, because it's like, oh crap, that's me. oh, all right. But you can't do the work unless you start with that. So that's kind of the starting point on the model. Of course, it goes deeper than that. But then the next one is about speaking truth. So this, again, we don't really, it's funny because I see society valuing truth as a concept, and truth telling and honesty and all those things. We teach our kids, you must be honest, little Johnny, you must be truthful. Truth will set you free. Honesty is the best policy. Like, you name it, they're all catchphrases that are out there. But how much do we really speak the truth? How confident are we in a relationship, for example, to speak up if something isn't right for us, if it doesn't feel comfortable, if it doesn't feel like it's heading in the right direction? Often we tiptoe, whether that's at work or at home, in our friendships, we tiptoe around. I can't say that, and I can't say that, and so I'll kind of filter this, and yeah, it happens everywhere. So, and no, I won't go off on that tangent. That'll take us too far.
No, I'm way too curious.
Oh, you want the tangent?
No.
You want the tangent? Okay. Well, it's not about relationships, but it is a police story, so you'll like it and hate it at the same time. So back in time when I was 22, and in the first 6 months, you go for your police driver's license. So I'd already had my license for a few years, good driver. And I went out to the station where they do the driving test, did the written test, all fine, and then went out for the drive with the sergeant to get my license. So 22-year-old, kind of green, still figuring out the world. And we went for a drive out to this kind of vacant land area. There was a housing estate being built, but it was not much out there. And it was, up until that point, everything was fine. The drive was fine. We're about half an hour into it. And then he's gone off this beat. He told me to drive off this beaten track. And then he said, pull over here. And then next thing, I said, what are we doing here? And next thing I turn and I realized that he's unzipped his pants and he said, can you help me out here? And I went, what? Like, it was just too much for my little brain to process. And I'm like, what? He goes, come on, no one's around. Help me out. It'll be fun. It won't take long. And even as I tell the story, even though it's so long ago, my heart rate, I can feel my heart rate increasing because that's what happened at the time. It's like, what is this really happening? Like, how do I navigate this? And anyway, I said, no. And he goes, do you want your license or not? And I said, yes, I want my license, but I ain't doing that, man. And so he tried again and tried to persuade me. And I said, no, I want to go back. And he goes, okay, all right. And so my heart was racing. And then we were driving back to the station and I couldn't think properly. And I drove through a stop sign and I didn't crash or anything, but he said, oh, instant fail, sorry, which it was if you drive through a stop sign. And so we went back to the station and I didn't get my license, but I was so afraid to speak. So this is a speak circle, to speak truth, to speak what happened, to speak up, to tell somebody, because I thought, this is just the start of my career. I'm 22 and he's whatever age, and no one's going to believe me, or somebody will think, oh, he'll tell another story. He'll say that I did it. I didn't know what was going to happen. So I didn't tell anyone. And I regret it to this day because I think if he was doing that to me, who else did he do it to? And I'm
the way you just said, like, if you want to get your license, when you said that, I was like, every single other license he gave before in the past had the same story.
I don't even like, I kind of hope that I was the only person, the first and last person who did it to, but you and I both know that's probably not the case. So, but I didn't speak up. So that speak your mind, speak your truth, speak, good, bad, whatever it is so important. And I eventually, like a few years ago, was actually the first time that I spoke up publicly about it. I did an article on LinkedIn, and interestingly enough, the police department got in touch with me. So somehow that article filtered through to somebody in the department. And this is a long time ago, remember? And they got in touch and said, sorry, that happened to you. Would you like to talk about it? Or would you like some counseling or whatever? And I said, no, but I'm really grateful that you actually followed it up. So yeah, so that's the speak one. Shall I keep going on these?
Yeah, I want to hear them.
I won't go on too many tangents. Okay, so then you've got seek. So that's all about where we are looking for truth in our interactions, in our relationships. When I seek truth from you, if I'm conducting job interviews, I want the truth from somebody to find out if they're the right match for the organisation. So all through life, we're seeking truth. So there's some things we need to ask ourselves on that through that circle. Is the truth mine to know? Am I just being nosy and it's not actually a truth I should know? Is it how will I use that truth? Can I handle the truth? So often we ask people, be honest with me, be truthful with me, but then they are, and then we flip and like, oh, I can't believe you're like, so if you're not going to make it safe for me to be truthful, then, you can seek truth all you like, but I don't feel safe to give you the truth. So
yeah, I think that happens most where it's really clear and easy to see is with like a parent and a kid. They'll like tell them like, you have to tell me the truth. And then afterwards they punish them for that. Like,
spot on.
Do you think they're ever going to go and tell you the truth again?
That's it. And because we sort of think short term often about truth and lies and truth and honesty and all those topics. We think short term, I just want to know now, or I just want that outcome now. We don't actually think about how we're conditioning someone or a situation for honesty. So that's a big one to think about. Where did we get to? And stop. Stop is all about disrupting the spread. It's kind of like stopping untruth, stopping bullshit, stopping the spread. Like I don't watch the news. I used to watch the news all the time. I was a news junkie, and I believed what was in front of me. Oh, it's on the news, so it must be true. And then you go and tell somebody, oh, did you know that such and such, blah, blah, blah. And you're just basing it on what some journalist told you in a 3-second grab. And then somebody else says that and somebody else spreads that, or, rumors and gossip. And that's, I just don't think that's a really effective way to go through life. I don't listen to the news now. I get snippets. And even then I think, I don't know if that's true. Like where this story
Like
comes
your whole mindset is.
Yeah. It's just, it's like, does it serve me to believe it? Does it serve me to not believe it? Like, so I'll take the information, but I won't make it the truth and then start spreading that and telling people. And I know plenty of people in kind of my family and friend circle, they come over for, coffee and they go, oh my God, did you hear blah? And I'm like, how do you know that to be true? It was on the news. Or it was on Facebook. Yeah, it was on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. It's stopping the truth also, like if you hear bad going on somewhere, standing up for it and talking about that, or not especially under that.
Yeah. When that would be up there's overlap with the circles, but that would be about speak as well.
Okay.
So speaking. But yes, it's stopping the bullshit and speaking up about the truth. And the last one is spot. So spot hidden truth. So detecting deception is actually pretty hard. Some of the crime shows would have us believe that it's easy, and some of the articles and blogs and books that I've read over the years are very misleading because they tell people, things like, if you ask someone a question and then they look away, then they're definitely lying. It's like rubbish. Or if someone crosses their arms, then they're definitely defensive. And all of those things, whenever you hear in those contexts, when you hear somebody go from A to B really quickly and use what I call absolutes, someone always does this, or a liar always does that, or that everyone that happens to, you have to have a warning bell on that, because it's not the case, because it's way more, it's not black and white, there's lots of shades of grey, way more nuanced than that. And yeah, you've got to be cautious with that one.
Yeah, for sure. Now, how do you use these 5 in your own relationships, and how can other people learn to use them in their own relationship?
Yeah, good question. So my relationship history is that I was married, and I actually married a squad mate from the police academy. And we had 2 daughters together, but our love was not enough to keep kind of flourishing and blossoming. And it was me that made the decision that this isn't right for us, isn't right for me, which caused me a lot of guilt at the time, because I like, how come I can't hold this together? How come I can't find more love within me? Like, I felt really kind of silly that I couldn't create this happily ever after family, the 2 kids, the dog, the picket fence, all of those things. But so I had to work through that. I had to work through the guilt and shame associated with saying this isn't for me, and it's still being held against me today by him. But what can I do? And so on the single scene for a long time, short relationships, looking for the one, and 7 years ago I found the one. But that came with its own obstacles as well. And we're getting married this year, so engaged and getting married this year. Yeah. And so we actually were very aligned with this topic around truth. And I guess I brought it to the table because of my background and my passion. But he's very much on board with the whole concept of thinking about how this applies in relationships. And I think one of the starting points is, when I set out to find the one, find him, I said, I don't want an average relationship. I want an extraordinary relationship. I'd been in average relationships, short and long, and I thought there has to be more to it. Like, just park all the Disney fairy tales for a while, but there has to be, there's people that have achieved that. What do you do? How do you achieve that? And so that was the question I kept asking. What do I need to do to achieve an extraordinary relationship? And the answer is that for that is you don't stop trying. It doesn't get to a point you go, well, there we are, extraordinary relationship. Yeah, you got
always another level.
Yeah, exactly. It's a work in progress. But you absolutely do need tools and knowledge and courage and effort and all of those things to do that. So in relation to that truth piece, when I got into this relationship, so he was actually is a widower, and he'd lost his wife of 15 years after a 4-year battle with leukemia. So even though he fitted my kind of ideal criteria, when I put my order in for my ideal man, I didn't say widower with 2 little kids. I didn't say that. I said I wanted a strong man with integrity and blah, 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 all the list of those things. And I was like, oh, okay, it comes packaged like that, does it? Right. Okay, so that had its own set of challenges, roller coaster challenges that at times I thought, I can't do this. This is too hard. It's too hard. But what I've learned in the last couple of years in particular is that hard is okay as long as you know where you're going with that hard, as long as you've got an intention. Just doing hard for hard's sake, where you are constantly at each other's throat or struggling or feeling shitty or whatever the case is, I don't think that's good. Like that's probably, I don't know. But hard with growth and hard with goals and purpose and intent and all those things, in my view, is okay, because you know that it's hard for a reason, because you're growing, and I think you can't grow without some of that stuff.
Yeah, I think you come out so much better and stronger, and as a person, you're each better, and then your relationship becomes so much better.
Yeah, but it can be a tough journey, and a lot of the great relationships that I've seen, they've got a similar story. Like, it wasn't always sunshine and rainbows. We almost broke up here, or we did break up here, and then we did some work, we got back together, and it's better. So. And I take my hat off to you for the podcast that you do, to be able to tackle the challenges of a relationship from so many different angles, because that's the right approach, is to tackle it from different angles. There's not a one size fits all approach where you go, you know what you need to do, just do that. If it was that easy, someone would have written the book, and then that's your guidebook.
I don't think our divorce rate would have been 50%.
It's just, yeah, that's right. And even higher for the second marriage, isn't it? So yeah. So there's something going on there that we need to go, all right. And particularly in those second marriages, or as you get older. So the older you get, you've already got this backpack of bullshit that you're carrying around with you. You go, okay, there's my ex-husband, there's all the crap over here, there's, I used to be fitter than this, and now look at me. And like you got all this stuff, I got stretch marks here, all this stuff that you're carrying on your backpack. Then you get thrown into a relationship with a girl guy, and you find out, guess what? They've got a backpack too.
Oh yeah.
They're carrying their backpack along with all their bullshit in it. And I was like, so you sit down on your first date, it's like, okay, I'm just going to pull out my distrust for men. Let's pull that one out. All right then. So what's your intention? And he goes, okay, I'm just going to pull out. And it's like, so you have to know what's in your backpack. And you got to decide, should I keep that in my backpack as I move forward, or does that deserve to be left in the gutter on the way to the date and don't pick it up again? Yeah. So I think that's really important.
Getting to the truth of it. What's in your backpack?
Yeah, what's in your backpack?
Now, has this truth, your work with truth, you're already working with it when you were dating, has it affected your own dating life?
Does it mean, did I not trust anybody that I dated? Or they got scared when they found out what I did? Probably. I think what I've learned over time and through my study is that we, as humans, we're very trusting. That's our natural default, is to believe and to trust. And there's an author professor called Timothy Levine, and he's recently written a book called Duped, which I think is great. And he talks about his truth default theory. And it is all about, we naturally default to truth. We actually, what that means is that we believe what someone is telling us most of the time in front of us. And that's okay. That's okay when you think about how we need to interact socially to get on with our life. Can you imagine?
We would never trust anyone. We
We
won't
never trust
get
anyone.
anywhere.
You just think of all the interactions you have every day, and if you didn't trust someone, you wouldn't believe the lady down the greengrocer. You wouldn't like you. There's a whole lot of things that you wouldn't believe that people say. "Oh, I
Doing
don't believe
everything 6 times and double checking, and you'd never be able to give anyone any job because you don't know if they did.
that." I know.
I don't be able to talk to someone because, like, is that true? Are you saying, like,
That's
prove it
true,
to
yeah.
me?
Yeah, what did you do Saturday night? Oh, I went down to the bar. Did you really? What did you have for breakfast? Cornflakes. I don't think you did.
Let's go see
So-
how much is left in the box.
so we actually, the truth default is a good thing. It's a good thing. But what the flip to it is that, yin and yang on everything. The flip to it is that it does or it can leave us vulnerable to deception. So that's what happens. So there's a kind of a payoff for us to be able to move through life and have mostly happy relationships at work and at home, and be able to communicate and get through the day without all those things that we just spoke about. We need the truth default and even a truth bias at times, but it can hold us. It can cause us to be vulnerable to deception and believe a lie when it doesn't serve us. So we are believing. Yeah. Did I answer? I don't even know what the question was. What was the question? Did I answer it?
I'll get to the question in a second. It just made me curious about something else. What could you tell us about, like, how could we be more aware so we don't just fall into these lies?
Be more aware, did you say?
Notice when these lies are and be able to really detect, not just fall for our truth bias.
Yeah. Okay. So the first thing is actually knowing that truth bias is a thing, or truth default. Truth bias and truth default are a little bit different. They play together. The truth default is just defaulting back to believing truth. Truth bias is more a conscious want to believe. So I might be good friends with you, and we've been friends for a long, long time, and I just think you're awesome. And so I have this truth bias that she wouldn't possibly lie to me. Or people that are watching this that are in relationships. Most people think that if I'm in a relationship with someone and I've known them for lots and lots of times, then I would definitely be able to detect if they are being deceptive. But study shows that's not always the case, that we think that we would be able to easily spot the lies in our relationship because we know them so well. But because of that truth bias, we already trust them, we already believe them, we already love them, we already think they're awesome. So that's kind of why a lot of people in relationships can get away with some pretty serious deception, is because of our truth bias. We want to believe them. We don't want to think that they're lying. That's too hard for us to fathom. But depending on the context, depending on the situation, there's no Pinocchio's nose when it comes to deception detection. And again, there's a lot of misleading stuff out there. So you've got to be careful that you can't go out there lie spotting going, you know what, I'm just going to look to see what they do with their eyes. And I'm going to see if they because there's no one sign that is out there. All the experts try looking for it, trust me, to indicate that person is telling a lie. However, there are certain things that you can look for. And one of them is when there's a lack of congruency between what I'm saying and what I'm doing. That doesn't equal deception, but that equals something that's interesting to notice. And for me, I've trained
or something.
Yeah, red flag is a good way to do it. And for me, I've trained myself that I've got this little voice that comes up on my shoulder that says, "That's interesting." Maybe I need some help with that, but that's where it's me seeing a red flag. It's me thinking that didn't seem to fit, or that was odd there, or why hasn't that person answered my question? I asked a question, they gave me an answer, but it wasn't an answer to that question. Why are they avoiding that topic? Why do they seem uncomfortable? Now, there could be lots of reasons they seem uncomfortable. Doesn't equal deception, but the first thing is just noticing. So it's kind of like a shift or a change from someone's baseline or their normal behavior, where you see that something is not quite right, and often you pick it up as a gut feel. So
I was about to ask you if there's like some people that naturally are just better at it because they just I think it's also something that you train like a muscle. Like the more you use it, then you'll notice it more?
Yes and no. And I used to think that too. I used to think, okay, so the high level, intelligence agents out there, does that mean that all of them are so great at it? And then I started training some of those high level intelligence agents in Australia, and I realized that, hang on a second, they're not much better than the general community. And that's what research shows, that there's a number that gets thrown around that it's 54%, that we get it right about 54% of the time when it comes to truth and lie spotting. But the truth is, if you start to understand how that 54% was arrived at in all the studies that are out there, and I won't go into it now because it's kind of complex and I don't know if I'll do it justice, but we actually get it wrong. We get it wrong when it comes to spotting deception more. We're worse than that. We're worse than that. We're okay at spotting truth, but we're actually crappy at spotting deception. So but that shift or that change of deviation from someone's normal or baseline behavior, not answering questions, looking uncomfortable, a look of stress or, kind of load are all things to take note of, but don't jump to the conclusion, aha, he's lying because he did that.
I like
but
that.
You certainly it might prompt you to ask more questions. It might prompt you to investigate further. It might prompt you, depending on the context, to cross-check or to ask more questions.
Yeah. Now, back to that other question that I asked earlier is what, with this knowledge that you have of being in such a field, did it affect your dating life? Like, this is specifically with dating, but I guess it's really a general question is, do you go around viewing people, oh, they're lying, oh, they're not, stuff like that?
When I came out of the police force, I absolutely had a filter of skepticism. That was one of the reasons I left, because I could feel that filter kind of taking over. And if you know any police, you'll probably, this is generalizing, but a lot of police they're very skeptical. Like, look at that car, look at that guy over there, look at it. And it was grating against my natural style of, like, I want the whole world to hug and everyone's beautiful. And I had to kind of become harder. So I remember coming out of the police force with this, you're a baddie, look at your car, look at your tattoo. I got tattooed. And so I kind of did away with that. I didn't want that. And I guess over time, and particularly in my dating life, I wanted to always look for the good in people. And I wanted to, but one thing I was conscious of is trying to create an interaction where that person feels that truth is okay. And to do that, you need to, so I'm in my dating head at the moment, I'm picturing myself on a date. To do that, it's one of the things you need to be careful on is your judgment on what someone is telling you. So they start to tell you something that might be a bit personal, and it could be something as simple as what TV show or what TV series they like. Like that's a base level thing. It's not even a big sticky thing. And you go, oh, are you serious? Now, straight away, you've signaled to them that you think that is stupid. You have a judgment about them. Now, they were going to tell you something bigger than that. Are they feeling safe? They couldn't even tell you which TV show series they like before you actually gave them a view on that. So they're not about to tell you, look, I actually, I went to prison for a year about 10 years ago. I'm not a bad guy. It was I made a wrong choice. They're not going to tell you that because you haven't made it safe. And that could be your ideal man. That's right there. He went to prison for a year. Okay. You look into it, of course, but so making it safe, asking questions and then making the answers okay. You might not decide that that's the person that you want to have a second or a third or a fourth or a fifth date, or you might. But you can't actually decide that unless you are open to receiving the information to get past the surface level. Like, you
can't even find out more about it because automatically it's bad. Like, why did he go to prison for a year? What's the story? Not just like labeling him, oh, he's a bad guy.
That's it. Like you don't make the judgment then about somebody. Just get some information, but get some honest information, get some truth, find out whatever that story is. Why has that guy been married 3 times? Because I know a lot of women go, oh my God, he's been married 3 times. He must be a complete disaster. I don't know. Maybe not. What does that even mean? Maybe he was a complete disaster and 5 years ago he said, you know what, I'm sick of being a complete disaster. I'm going to read every book there is on relationships. I'm going to, get my body in shape and I'm going to be the best goddamn partner that anyone can ever find. Like, you don't know. So you got to be careful that you don't just jump to a conclusion. And so that was a big thing for me on a date. And a lot of the time I actually had feedback at the end of a date because I was a little bit tricky here. I gave very little of myself, and I was very good at asking questions, but not making it sound like I was asking questions. So we might go for an hour, 2-hour date, and he might have asked, or I might have given 2 answers, but he's given 200 answers. And it's not till we get to the end, it goes, oh my God, I just realized that I've been talking about myself the whole time. I'm like, no, not at all, not at all. So,
What's your trick to that?
is exactly all those things I said. So actually knowing how to ask questions is a big one, because I've coached a lot of women over time that have been nervous about dating, and there's a few reasons for that, but one of them is I don't know what to ask. Like, what should I ask? And I coached a lady that's she's a serving police officer, and she showed me her online dating profile, and I said to her, oh my God, you would scare them away, girl. It's like this police interrogation, like, when you come into my clutches, I'm going to interrogate you. I said, just reading the profile, because she said she would get some dates. She didn't get many dates, but she'd get some dates, but never a second date. So I kind of reverse engineered. I go, let's start with your profile. Whoa. And so I haven't got it here. I can't remember all the details. It was a few years ago. But it was like, okay, if you're brave enough to get through that first barrier and go on a date with her, good luck with that, because your second stage. So you got to think about that, how you're coming across. Curiosity is the key. Being curious about someone else's world, about someone else's life. I used to play a game with myself and say, no matter what, I will come out of this every date, learning something I didn't know before and leaving behind something of value. That's it. And I did. I achieved that. Well, I don't know if I left something of value every time. That would be up to them to say it. But I certainly, I learned something every single date. So never did I have a date that was a failure. Never did I go, oh my God, all my dates are failures. No, they're not. They just didn't actually end up in him being Mr. Amazing. But it wasn't a failure, not at all. It was a stepping stone.
Exactly. And I think that in marriage, you could do the same every time. I don't know if every conversation that you have with your partner, but even if you have like a set conversation a week or dates that you go on and say that, like, I want to learn something new. Yeah, I was married for 15 years, but there's still something new I could learn.
Yeah, 100%. And but you have to, I actually think with couples that have been married for a long time and maybe they're looking to give it a bit of a shake up, needs a bit of a spark, reignite, that I started with saying this, you have to get more knowledge in. You have to get some more tools in. Do not expect to get a different result with the same tools and awareness that got you to where you are today. So if you're in a relationship and you're going, oh, it's okay, I love him or I love her, so look, it's okay. It's okay. But you want it to be sensational. You got to do the work. You gotta do the work. There's so many great resources out there. There's courses, there's books, there's so much free stuff out there, but I'd say invest in things as well and do the work. If you right now said to your partner, right, let's just take a 12-month block and we are going to go nuts and we're going to both read a book a month for 12 months. Ideally the same book so you can talk about it.
Talk about it and work through exactly what it is. So, choose 12 books. I could recommend some of them. And we're at the end of 12 months, let's see where we are. You can't be back further. You just can't be back further. You have to grow, because you can't unlearn something. So as soon as you get something new in there, it's in there. You know it now. Well, what you do with it is up to you. Yeah, but knowledge of it and like the awareness of it, then obviously there's many levels after that, but that's where it starts off with.
Yeah. So and even if that was too big to say, 12 books a year, I only read one book every 10 years, then scale it down and do it needs to be a little bit uncomfortable. It needs to be a push. It needs to be you might say a book every 2 months and find out who are the relationship experts in the world, like John and Julie Gottman, for example. Fantastic stuff coming out of the Love Lab, the stuff that they do.
Yeah, and if you can't do a book, then read a blog post a month or something else that's going to work.
And
a blog post a week or something. But
100%, and let it ignite discussion. Esther Perel, I mean, her stuff is just gold. Oh man, I love anything. I digest anything that Esther Perel does.
Your perspectives and the way she views things is.
I have a crush on her. So even all the free stuff that she's giving, where she's got the couples in the, what's it called? How Should We Begin? Where that series where she's got couples in the room and she's coaching them, and both of people in a relationship sit down and listen to that whole series and use that as a discussion starter. There's so much good stuff out there. A book that I've just recently read, Intimate Communion by David Dida. And my fiance's read that too, and he goes, "Oh my God, that's changed my world." And so I'm almost finished it, but we're talking about it along the way too. So that's next level stuff about that. It is about sexual polarity and how it's about a lot more than that, but also how the lines are so blurred now with I'm a man, you're a woman, like I do this, and hang on, we're going to be equal, but I still want to be a man and I want you to be feminine. So we kind of like, we're mucking up what's our roles and where do we fit. And then as soon as you sort of say masculine and feminine, then some people get on the bandwagon of, no, we're all equal. We should all be equal. We're equal. Read that.
I'm waiting for it to like go over the top and then like scale back to normal.
It's dangerous. And that I understand after reading this book why so many relationships are just feeling very flat and feeling very neutral, and people's sexual mojo's just gone out the window. It's like, oh no, I'm too old for that. Oh, my hormones won't let me do that. And it's like, you know what? It doesn't have to be like that. It does not have to be like that.
Agreed. Okay, now I just want to hear quickly about your newest project. I'm really curious.
Okay, so I have recently.
I don't know how much you could say at this point.
Yeah, it's quite new, but thank you for asking about this because I'm just super excited. Okay, so I have partnered up with a lady that's in Virginia in the States, and her name is Lena Cisco. And so me, ex-cop, her ex-Navy interrogator, she used to interrogate the big bad guys, the terrorists after September 11 and all that stuff. So she's been right in there in the ditches, and we have been friends for a couple of years because we kind of do similar things on each side of the world, teaching people how to encourage truth and spot deception, ask better questions, read behavior, all that jazz. We both love it. So we came together, and a few years ago, I created a program for women to help women on the dating scene to stay safe and to find love sooner. So I had a whole lot of content there, but some other things took over and I didn't end up launching that program. So Lena and I got together and we started to combine our knowledge and our life experience and my material from the previous course. And we said, oh my God, we have got the best program here that can help millions of women to stay safe on the dating scene and to find true love sooner and to build those foundations to start to get that foundation right to build an amazing relationship moving forward. So we've pulled our knowledge and our experiences, and we're not ready to launch just yet, but by the time somebody watches this, we've probably launched. And our overarching brand is called the Truth Love Academy.
Yeah, Truth Love Academy. Find that truthloveacademy.com, right?
Yeah, truthloveacademy.com, and also there's a Facebook page. So we're appealing to single women that are serious about finding true love. So come to the Truth Love Academy for true love. And also because I think my police background, I saw a lot of women that got into a bit of trouble on the dating scene, that trusted the wrong guy, that ended up in a fair bit of trouble. So, and me with two daughters in their early 20s, I'm very big on date safely. There are some creeps out there. There are some things that you can get wrong. So being able to read behavior, being able to read between the lines, being able to have confidence to influence truth, detect deception, ask better questions, all of those things are so powerful. So it can help you safely on that journey and help you to work out more quickly who's wrong and who's right. So ditch the wrong ones more quickly so you can bring the right ones in even faster too. So yeah, Truth Love Academy. And so there's a series of programs under that banner, which are just so amazing.
So cool. And it's not, I'm assuming that like once you learn the skills and you find the right guy, it's not just like for dating, but you afterwards have it for all other areas of your life.
Yeah, that's right. Because imagine building that from the foundation, from that first date, creating an environment where it's safe for truthful information to flow. And then you find out that, yes, you've got this connection and we're going to do something with it, and creating that right from the start. So you're not going, oh, I wonder what he's thinking, or I don't know if I can say that, and tiptoe, which a lot of people do at the early stages. And you don't want that. You want to get it right as right as possible from the foundation. And then keep growing from there, keep developing from there.
Yeah, I love that so much. Okay, so for our final question that I ask everyone, how would you describe an extraordinary relationship without using these 3 words?
Oh,
Love.
that's right.
Okay, and write them down. Love,
Yeah.
connection, and for you, I'm gonna put in truth.
Oh, so I can't use truth. Hey, that's not really fair. How do I describe an extraordinary relationship without using love, connection, or truth? I want to use those ones, please. All right. So I would say it is a relationship that you feel it in your body, that there is, I'm going to say connection, can't say connection. It's an energy field, I think. It's a bond through energy that feels right, and you feel yourself, you feel your authentic self, and you feel safe, and you feel that being the best version of yourself is possible. It's possible anyway. You need to have that belief yourself, but the possibilities are boosted because of the relationship.
Oh yeah.
To be the very, very best version of yourself. That would be my definition without love, connection, or truth.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Elly. This was amazing. I really enjoyed talking with you.
Same. Thank you so much for having me on. All the best.
Did you enjoy that episode? Could you do me a personal favor and subscribe and leave a review? It would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much and have an awesome day.